for most of the year. So here's Adam Flagler. Baylor, Mike Carey retired, not resigned. Baylor gets the reset, the loss to Oklahoma Thursday in the quarterfinal round of the Big 12 tournament. There's all sorts of debate of whether it helped them get an extra day or two of practice. I would think not really. Again, that's just to me a kind of a cop-out. I'm not saying the players said that or Scott Drew, but they have had a few days. Do they have enough time? And did they get a chance to kind of reset for the game and the start of the NCAA tournament?
How's the break been since the Big 12 tournament? And what do you guys feel like y'all need to do right now, just as far as team-wise?
The break's been really good. Just really focusing on attention to detail. We are a really good defensive team, but the past two games with Iowa State as well as Oklahoma, we've been kind of lax. So just kind of pinpointing on that, focusing on that, and just having each other's back and being connected out there. That's what we've been working on. So we're going to be excited to go out there and show that we are still one of the best teams in the country. So
Baylor's kind of had three different seasons, really. And you had the 15-0 start, and then, of course, attrition started to get to them. And then they got beat up by Kansas. Lost the first game, was home against Tech, and then Oklahoma State. Then Alabama got them. So and then they kind of got themselves back on track to get up to number 3 in the country and have a chance and to win a share of the Big 12 title by wins against Kansas and Texas. So they've been doing a lot of this without without Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua, who went out during the Texas game a long time ago, it seems. So Flo Thamba had that unbelievable game against Kansas, and he was asked about his role and who he has become and what he needs to do now that Jonathan, of course, has been out and going forward.
I know, Flo, that you've been asked about the increase in your time on the floor with the injury to Jonathan, but just how have you had to pace yourself pretty much since that first Texas game to where you are now so you can be as productive as possible?
For me, there's no pressure at all. My teammates and my coaches give me the utmost confidence, and they basically just say, "Flo, take your time with it." And what helps me the most is they don't just always throw me in crazy situations, but just while practicing, having my teammates help me in certain situations and stuff. It just keeps me afloat.
He was big against Kansas and maybe played the best game of his life, of course, against Gonzaga for the national championship. Immediately you could see the difference with that, and that's who they are, right, Craig? They don't have Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua. That's now been quite some time. And then on top of that, they don't have L.J. Cryer. That has been some time. And then they've still had to nurse a little bit along with Adam Flagler and his knee, and to kind of make sure that isn't pushed too far. And then on top of that, there's other things that go wrong and other guys that have bumps and bruises as well. But I think Flo Thamba has played, considering what I thought he was as a player, has become and can help them on offense, not day in and day out, game in and game out, but he has risen to the occasion with some more points that we are usually not seeing or haven't seen.
Yeah, he's answered the call as well as anybody could have expected. There's still some things frustrating about his offensive game, obviously, but that's not what he's, built for. That's not what he's there for. So given that that's not really what he's, supposed to be, what they are getting, is encouraging, and it's better than expected. But, the whole injury thing, it's so what? At this point, it's March Madness. We've been talking about their injuries for 3 months now, and I get it. I get that they played a factor in, the regular season, and I get that they played a factor perhaps to some extent in the Big 12 tournament. I'll say it, and this isn't some homer thing. If they had the team that started off 15-0 fully healthy, they probably win the Big 12 outright, or at least they have some classic battle against Kansas, to top it off. But that's not been the case. That's not their story this year. Their story is not that they have been the 15-0 team all year with all of those pieces in place. They are a team that pretty much half the entire year has been missing at least one or more big pieces, and they're still missing. And they're going to continue to miss at least one or more big pieces because Tchamwa-Tchatchoua is not coming back. No. So, then Flagler, that gives you at least two, and then, Cryer. Yeah, it's frustrating, but you know what? I don't want to hear about it anymore, really, because now it's March, and now it's win or go home. So, yeah, it factors in, but I think there's, amongst the 60-plus other teams that are in this tournament, I'm sure there's some teams that have injuries or have had injuries that have derailed them, and if it wasn't for those injuries, they'd be a better seed. Fact of the matter is, Baylor, with all of their injuries that we spent so much time talking about, is still a number 1 seed. So, you're a number 1 seed. Go out there, defend your national championship, and if you don't have all your pieces, well, that's just the breaks.
That's who you are. You have to be who you are. Texas Tech had theirs with both Shannon and McCullough, and McCullough again. And then Houston, of course, lost Marcus Sasser and others. And look where they are. They battled back to win their conference and then also the tournament as well. Flo Thamba, this year, if you look at throughout this year, early on against Arizona State, he scored 11, 16 against Alcorn State. And then in the Texas game, when Jonathan Chamwa went down, he finished with 12. Then he had 7, 10, 8, 18 against Kansas. And that was the one that was, what in the world? 12 against Texas, Iowa State 7. In the tournament game, the loss to OU, he had 10. And they need him to be that because the outside shooting has been the percentage has not been that good. Speaking of that, of course, Adam Flagler was a major part, as was Flo, a major part of what they did a year ago with the national championship run and eventual title game rout of Gonzaga. Scott Drew earlier today in the media session up in Fort Worth, asked about the Adam Flagler and leadership.
Yeah, Adam's one of those guys that when he's done playing basketball, he wants to be a pediatrician, and then normally you don't want to be a pediatrician unless you really care for other people. So anytime you have an experienced player, a leader that cares that much about his teammates, you know they're going to make a great leader. And we have the ultimate faith in Adam, and know that he always has the team's best interest at heart. And so it's easy to hear and listen to the advice he gives other players and the thoughts he has for us as a staff. And he's somebody that has battled injuries as well. And I know LJ Cryer will not be available this weekend, so it's more even more onus on him and James and Dale to make sure that they're at their best.
All right, that's Scott. That's Scott Drew earlier today in Fort Worth at the media session. We'll be there tomorrow. Armstrong, do you have the graphic that was on Sic'Em365.com? I don't know if Jack did this because I haven't seen him. Sic'Em365 Radio Live, Railhead, Smokehouse Barbecue on Montgomery Street in Fort Worth. Tomorrow we'll be there 3 to 6, which is right after the game with Baylor and Norfolk State. That's tips at 1. And so that is tomorrow. Thanks to Charlie Guerin. I talked to Charlie today, and Gilbert's going to be is going to be our go-to guy there tomorrow. We hope you can come by after the game, or if you don't have a ticket and want to watch it there with us, we'll be there. We'll be at the game and then come back and eventually do our show. Looking forward to it from 3 to 6. Thanks to Charlie Guerin. He won't be there tomorrow, but if, in fact, Baylor moves on as they're supposed to against a 16 seed on Saturday, Charlie said he would definitely be there with us, and we will wait and to see the tip time with Baylor, if they advance, and whoever else, North Carolina or Marquette, to decide what time we'll be on the air with a pregame and or postgame show as well.